So very cool. So I just got a really cool connection. So first of all, one thing that I wanted to say while we're waiting, I know Katie's hopping back on and maybe I haven't checked my messages. So we have, I don't know if either one of you guys have ever met her or not, but we have sort of a resident life coach on our team. She's actually a good friend of mine. Her name is Amy Snow. And she has done, I don't even know at this point, like dozens of masterminds for our team. And she's also, like I said, she's my personal life coach. So I work with her weekly. But we were talking last week and I said, it'd be really cool to have you hop on one of these mastermind or one of these mentorship calls and just sort of lead us through some sort of like personal development workshop. So she specializes, she's a John Maxwell certified coach. She specializes in leadership. She's really gotten into like the Enneagram, DISC assessment, like personality stuff, which is kind of cool. So I'm actually doing a workshop with her this Thursday with a group of people here locally, which should be cool. So she is supposed to get back with me. She's going to try to hop on one of our December calls here in the next couple of weeks before the holiday. So, and then what was really cool was tonight, she just looped me into this group text right after I came out of Ellery's room. So it's very recent, but Tracy Morrow is a founding coach with Beachbody, one of the first 12 coaches in the network. And she is also sort of the right hand gal for John Maxwell himself. She's kind of in his inner circle, and she's recently become one of the co-hosts on the John Maxwell Leadership podcast. So, but her leadership comes from Beachbody. Like she is a founding Beachbody coach. She has a huge network. I love her family story. I forget how many, I think she has like 10 kids or something crazy. She's done a few little like recorded messages for our team. Like when we used to have live events way back, back in the day when we used to have live events before COVID. Anyways, I got looped into a message strand with her tonight with Amy, and she's interested in the sync hormone stuff now. And so she's kind of getting into that. And that's a huge win because she's kind of in the ear of Carl Deichler and she's got relationships there. So we're having a conversation about the hormone health stuff this week, but she is also somebody who I would love to have speak if you guys are open to it. I don't know if she'll be available in December, but perhaps early in January, we can get her to hop on here. She's just an amazing person. She's one of those people that you're like, how does she do it all and do it all with such grace? Like, how do you have a million kids and you're John Maxwell's person and you're traveling with him and you're also a successful Beachbody coach and, all of the stuff. So she's just a really fascinating person. Our last mastermind that we did as a team, we did on Doug Fitzgerald's book, and Doug Fitzgerald and Tracy are both founding coaches and they're actually success partners. And when Amy said, hey, let me have Doug Fitzgerald speak to your team, I was like, okay, we'll see. And it was amazing. It was amazing. Like he was incredible. He actually spoke twice. So I have no doubt that Tracy will be the same. So we'll have a couple of guest speakers. So Amy will be here either, if not next week, the following week, before we get to Christmas. And then I'm looking to have Tracy hopefully sometime in January. I don't think I'll be able to squeeze her in before then. So I just wanted to mention that. So how are things? So the first thing I wanted to ask you guys pertaining to the business world is, what did you guys think of the flash sale? Did you guys have some prospects in the flash sale group? How are those follow-ups going? Did you have anybody that you had sent the job one free workout to? How's the follow-ups going with that? I'll just I have no agenda. So whatever you guys want to talk about is fine with me.
Anyone want to jump in? I have a few things to report, so I can start.
Sure. Go for it.
Okay. So I had 2 people that I invited to the flash sale. They voted with the poll. I was like, yes.
Awesome.
Along with my little 16-year-old sister who was just doing it. So I could see what happened when you, yes. And like, what happens when someone votes or like polls in or whatever.
Right.
So anyway, I did not invite her to the flash sale. But one is really interested. She used to be a Beachbody coach back in the day, and I bought Beast Body from her, like when it was still the discs, like I don't know, 2014 or something. And then she recently, like within the last year or so, became a customer. So, but she orders Shakeology sporadically, but she's really interested in the bike, and she has a leather earring business, and she's in our local mall right now. So her goal is to order the bike in January. So I'm really trusting that works out for her because she's excited about it. But I also invited her to the flash sale. She said she was interested, but I don't know. I mean, she didn't really engage, which I know is a huge Black Sale Friday for her with the mall.
Right.
And then another person who was interested, who's also been a customer in the past, but she never engaged with it. Like I had to go over to her house and like help her join the Facebook group. So just not super tech savvy.
Yep.
And then, so those are the only two that responded to all of my invites, which I'm not discouraged. I mean, I'm still like, what's going on, but I'm not discouraged at the same time. I'm like, I know I'm planting seeds and I just want to keep consistency and keep doing it for me. And then for people who want to come along, I'm working on who I'm like attracting. And then another person who was engaged a couple of times, she received the job one video, but then had a death in the family. And so I did follow up with her just kind of on some conversations, how we had it in the group, like, hey, like, what did you think? Let me know when you're going to do it. And she said she had watched it but hadn't done it yet. So I'm giving her a minute to breathe, but
yeah,
those are
those are good seed plants though. That's good.
Good. And I just having those conversations again. And when I see people out there like, hey, like I see you're doing, XYZ. And I'm like, yes, I just love it. And then I just feel like I'm in like motion again, which is so awesome. And then just like all these invites we're doing, adding to my stories, like that's becoming more natural. And I'm just trying to take that as I feel like genuinely grateful. I feel like that's a huge win for me, is just building consistent behaviors.
Yeah. For sure.
So I'm grateful for you all. That's all I have to report.
No, that's great. I love that. So, when it comes to these little, I'll call them like mini invites, right? Like where we're sort of, it's like a miniature invitation, like you're inviting to something, we call it a third party tool. So we're inviting them to to the flash sale group, or you're inviting them to preview the workout. That's going to happen where I had the same thing where I had several people ask for the job one preview workout that I've never heard from before. A couple of them they were like, I don't understand how to do this. Do I have to log in somewhere? And I'm like, no, it's literally, I just sent you the link. Like you literally just click on it. It's just like YouTube. So some people just aren't super tech savvy. They're not knowledgeable with it. For the people you mentioned who are, you had to help her get into the group, I would, make sure you're following up with her like in person. Not just relying on her to check into that Facebook group. So, but these are what I like to call seed plants, because these are people who have seen your stories, or they've reached out, they've been invited to something. You guys have all probably heard the whole saying about, somebody has to see your brand 7 times before they engage with it or before they actually purchase. So you figure, they've hopped in the flash sale or they've seen the preview workout. That's just another hit. Of them seeing your stuff, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be like, sign me up today. Right. So, with the girl who you said has a store in the mall and the bike, I would definitely make sure that I mentioned to her, I know you mentioned January, that's totally cool, but I just want to make sure that you saw the post that was in the flash sale group about the Black Friday sale on the bike. It will be the lowest price that this bike will go. So just wanted to mention it to you in case you wanted to make that happen now. So she has the choice to be like, no, I'm still going to wait. That's fine. But at least then you're telling her, that she's not missing out on that savings. Cool. How about you, Ashley or Katie? Either one of you.
I don't really have anything to report. All the girls, I'm kind of like Rachel, like surprisingly, I'm not super, discouraged. I feel like before I would have been. Yeah. I'm still kind of blown away by all of the response I got when I originally had posted a couple weeks ago. So all of those, a couple of them, have not responded to any of my messages
Mhm.
at all, since I followed up. And then the rest of them are thinking about it, and they'll
Mhm.
basically let me know when they're ready. I
Okay.
kind of thought I might get some interest from them when I started posting about all the Black Friday sale and all of
Mhm.
that, but nothing. I think I know the one girl is kind of waiting until beginning of the year,
Okay.
before she even thinks about it anymore, really. So,
Mhm.
um, my biggest thing, we had a crazy weekend, but I'm trying to just get in the habit of being more consistent with my posting and my
Yep.
stories and stuff like that. And at this point, I was posting more on Instagram. Now I'm back to posting more on Facebook. So I'd like to get to the point where I'm posting on both,
Mhm.
but it's been crazy.
Mhm. Yeah,
Holiday stuff going on, and just a busy time.
I
So
get it.
yeah.
I get it. Yeah, cool. Well, I think, a couple of things, and this is actually something that I wanted to talk about. I was planning on talking about it last week, and then we had Wendy hop in sort of last second. But, one of the things that I know that we mentioned the very first week was how to make this a business where people come to you so that you don't have to feel like you're sending any like cold invitations and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So let's just kind of segue, and Katie, if I'll ask for your update here shortly, but I just want to make sure I hit on this and don't forget. So one thing that I remember I was told early on was that people, I think I mentioned this when Wendy was on the call, like people are really voyeuristic. They want to see into your life. And I know that there are some coaches that say, I don't want to show certain parts of my life, and that's totally fine. So don't misconstrue what I'm saying to mean that you're supposed to like open up everything and be an open book. You control what people get to see. So that might mean, and this is going to sound like you guys might even laugh at me. I know Katie's going to resonate because I've been with her on so many occasions where we've done this. When I'm in the basement working out, I purposely position my camera so that people see the baby toys and the toys in the room. I could easily put my camera on the other side of the room, which is just a blank wall behind me. But I want them to see that I'm a busy mom, that I have a toddler crawling in the tent behind me. Like I want them to see that kind of thing, because it just sort of, without saying anything, it eliminates an excuse of, right? And so sometimes I'll even get messages that say, gosh, when I see you doing this with Sutton there, it makes me feel like, gosh, I should probably be doing this too. I have a little one, and I tend to use that as my I I'm like, right. Like I don't have to say anything. It's just part of what they see. So there are times where I'm strategically thinking, like, what are some ways that I can really overcome an objection, but also establish my brand and my point of view in a way that doesn't even require words. You know what I mean? Like if you follow me for long enough, I don't eat dairy. So like when I'm posting pictures of my food, there's just no cheese in it. And I get questions. Like it's become part of my brand. I get a lot of questions when I post food. I get messages from people like, oh, is there a dairy-free cheese you like? Right? It starts conversations. That's just a small example, right? Talking about adoption. That's something that I've started talking about recently. Hormone health. Like these are things that are really unique to me and my interests. And so that's what I stick to on my social. Now there's other things happening in my life that I don't share because I just don't want to share it on, on social media. Like I have to be really mindful of like, what do I share about my girls? What do I not share about my girls? So I don't want you to think like when I tell you to open yourself up, I don't mean everything. I just mean, what are some areas that you're really interested in as a person? Because those are the types of things that other women that's how people are going to find you. Like-minded people find like-minded people. So just for a minute, like think about like, what are the things, like, what are your priorities? Because whatever your priorities are that's who you're going to attract. You know what I mean? And so putting it out there and being really transparent in those specific things and being intentional will start to really draw the right person. So I remember Danielle Natoni talking about, there's different things, different ways people have referred to this before, but sort of having like your three, what I would call your three primary, what's the word I'm looking for? Like things that make you unique as a brand. Like, what are your three things that you're talking about? right? Like I remember somebody saying one time, faith, fitness, and family. Like those are the three things. So on her social media at any given time, you scroll her social media, you're going to see faith, fitness, and family over and over and over and over. I would tell you and encourage you that you should be even more specific than that. Okay. So like not just because those are really broad umbrella topics. So, what are some things that you can drill into? Does that make sense? Like the last couple of days I posted a video of my circus in the basement because Ellery was riding on Chris's back in a ballerina costume and Sutton was following them like on a leash, and it was crazy. So I was like, I try to make it funny. Like I try to post things about my kids that are funny, right? I have two sous chefs in the kitchen. I think this is what they mean when they say too many cooks in the kitchen. Like I'm trying to make a joke, try to make it funny. What I did not share was the 48-minute meltdown that my 5-year-old had, which was torturous, but I thought about it because it could have been made funny. So, I try to put a spin on like parenting that's funny. Like that's just something that I try to do. When it comes to food, like I said, I'm very specific. It's not just food. It's the way I eat. Like I want people to see the way I eat. Like we love tacos. We love Mexican food. We don't do dairy. We don't do gluten, right? Like, so be specific in what it is that the way you live and kind of open people up into that world, because ultimately what we want to do, and this is like, if I could just condense branding yourself well into a nutshell, it would be, you want people to fall in love with you. So when you're making posts or stories on social media, what can you do to make people fall in love with you? Posting about the flash sale, all that kind of stuff. Those are sort of what I would call the call to action posts that we make. Those are sort of like if you're into the Gary Vaynerchuk world, he has a book called Jab, 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 Right Hook. In that way, he's talking about how we should make these subtle jabs. We should be talking to people about the things that are particular to our brand, and then throwing in a hook. Like every fourth post or every fourth time we come in front of somebody, we're hooking them into, hey, about the flash sale, hey, about the bike. So your social media should be a bunch of jabs, right? It should be a bunch of branding jabs. So what are the things that you're passionate about? What are the things you want to be talking about? And how can you take those and help people fall in love with you? It sounds crazy because we like to say, oh, social media is such a popularity contest, right? This whole concept of like imposter syndrome and all this stuff. But ultimately, you're the one that decides that, right? Like you can look at this and say, oh gosh, like make people fall in love with me. Like that means I have to show my body, or that means I have to do, nope. In 12 years, I think I've shown my own physical transformation like 3 times in 12 years. Like I'm not super comfortable with that. So I don't do it. And I've still been successful without doing it. So, and you might love it.
This is one of the like gifts that we have as Beachbody coaches, is because we use social media intentionally, like we can change what it is. Cause I was having one of those special conversations over Thanksgiving where it was like a friendly argument. And this woman was like, I'm never even on social media because it's the devil, because it's so bad. And I was like, well, it is, but you make it. And what you give energy to, that's what comes back to you. And she it's probably not the best time to have a debate over social media. And she goes, did you watch The Social Network? I was like, yeah, I did, but I already understood the analytics behind how it works before. So I was like, yeah, yep, that's how it works. Mm-hmm. Anyway, she was like kind of put off by me. But anyway, I like that instead of making it a place where everyone sees how beautiful and posed I am with my son here, seen in this photo, I post a lot about how dorky I am all the time. And people love it. I get the most reaction from people when I am a ding dong, and it's like, it's true to who I am. And sometimes it just makes me feel like people like me, even though I'm a mess. And then I think about, who do I like to follow? I follow Amy Schumer, who always looks like a disaster. And I think she's hilarious, and she's honest, and she's makes fun of herself and whatever. And, so I've looked at like, what do I like to follow? And like, how can I help people stop playing the comparing game and just connect. And I've been realizing lately, I've been trying to dig into like, I guess my why, or what it is that I'm meant to do on this earth, or what am I meant to do? Because I was trying to come up with like a blog URL, and I'm like, what is it that I want to communicate to everybody? And the thing I keep coming back to is you are not alone. And since I was in third grade, I remember, or maybe even younger, but I have a memory in third grade of befriending the girl that didn't have friends. And my whole life, I want people to not be left out. And even at the climbing gym, I was talking to this guy I hadn't seen in a long time. And he was talking about how he's been down and depressed and whatever. And I just wanted to be like, come on in, buddy. Like, so I think that the more we can in our social media find those ways to connect with people and help them know that their type of person is not alone, it's like, I don't know. It's not always just, we always hear the faith, family, fitness. And it's like, everybody has faith, family, fitness. But what else do you have in there? Like who else are you that someone else is just going to be like, oh my word, I'm just like that girl. I totally do that weird thing she does, or, so. Absolutely. I wish more people could use social media as more of a
good tool.
As a tool, instead of seeing it as like a bad thing they have to react to.
Absolutely.
It's like you're in control. I wish more people knew that or understood it. And it's only because of Beachbody that I even understand. Jab, 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 right hook was the first book I ever bought on social media when I had 300 friends and I didn't know what it was.
Well, and it's so true. And I'm glad you just said that, because it just brought up perspective for me too, that like, it is how you, I think I mentioned to you guys, I'm consulting this lady who is a single woman looking to adopt a baby. And she's been rejected by a lot of different agencies and attorneys because she's single. And so I was connected to her. She wanted to know our particular story, not that we were in that same situation, but she wanted to know if I had any other input. Long story short, my first question to her was, and maybe this is crazy, and I'm just going to say it completely transparently, because this is the way I was feeling. When I had the conversation with her, I'm thinking, you don't, like, in my mind, I'm like, you don't need an agency. Like so I was like, do you have a Facebook account? And she was like, no. Like she was very against social media. Like she had a LinkedIn page, but she didn't do anything else. And so we had that exact conversation, Katie, where I said to her, I was like, look, social media can be bad or it can be really good. I was like, I've made some of my best friends through social media that are in other places outside of my city. That's how we came in contact with Ellery's birth mother, was through Facebook. Like so many things have happened through social media for good. And I agree with you, Katie. I wish people would see it more for good than it is. Because certainly you can make it whatever you make it. That's great perspective. And I love your dorky videos. I loved the climbing rope this weekend. That was funny.
My beautiful aerial routine that I came up with. But Jenny, I think that's probably why I continue to follow you and not any other Beachbody coaches, really, is because you are funny and you have this like snarky, like badassness too, that you break through. You're, rebel Beachbody coach. And I like that. And that connects with my rebel spirit. So,
well, I learned from Chalene Johnson early on. She says she has the phrase, be you times 2. So whoever you are in real life, your social media should be that times 2. So if you follow Chalene, if you don't, please do. But if you don't follow her on Instagram, Facebook, everywhere. But she's very like obviously into fashion, obviously into rapping. She loves rap music and like dirty rap music. Like, but that's what I mean when I say be specific. Like, about Chalene, those things about Chalene. And I think it's hysterical that when she gets a hater that says, I can't believe you just dropped the F-bomb on Instagram. Like she will like actually publicize it in her stories and be like, to the person who didn't think I would say the F word. And then she'll be like, and she'll say it like, because she's so her times 2, you know what I mean? Like she's so confidently who she is. And I think that's the takeaway. So I know it's really easy. And I think the number one mistake that I see Beachbody coaches make is they come in as a coach and they say, okay, now I'm just all I'm going to post about is like my workouts and my food, workouts and food, workouts and food, workouts, join my group. And it's like, the people who were following you are now like, ugh, like now I don't want to hear about her stuff. Like, this is gross. Right. So like, what are the things that make you you outside of this, and really like exponentially share that. But there is something else that I wanted to say, and this does tie in, but I think it'll be helpful for you guys. So if you guys follow other successful coaches, I don't know who, but anybody, anybody that's on a wake up call, or anybody who's had success in the business, top 10 coaches are fun to follow. Everybody follows the same format when it comes to social media posts. And I'm going to give you that framework right now, because I think it will help you guys when you're crafting posts. Okay. So Ashley in particular, your post from a couple weeks ago, sort of like your coming out post. I don't remember specifically what the details were of that post, but I do know that in that post, a story was conveyed, and what I would call emotional details were included, right? Those are the things that are going to connect with somebody. So you guys might have heard this before, and if you have, I'm sorry. But if someone starts to describe to you in very specific detail their father's hands, if they start saying, oh, my father's hands, they were so calloused, so rough, so big, how they would hold my hand, and they start going into all these very specific details, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Your father's hands, most likely. So that's why we want to make sure that we include specific details, not just specific details, but specific details that emotionally connect. The question I get the most when I talk about this is people will say, well, gosh, I don't know how detailed to get. Like, how do I write the details of everything? Like the color of the floor, the color of the wall? You want to amplify the details that are connected to emotion. Does that make sense? When I was a creative writing major in college, and in the 8th grade, I took a English GT class at my little farm high school that I went to. And the English teacher on the very first day had us, we sat in a circle, and she put a bowl of moldy grapes in the middle of the circle. And she said, we're going to spend the entire 52-minute class today writing about these moldy grapes. And that was it. So we each had our notebooks and pens, and we spent 52 minutes writing about the bowl of moldy grapes. So when I say that you can come up with details that you aren't currently thinking, you can. You just have to give yourself time to really think them through. When I made a post 5, 7, maybe even 10 years ago about, it was all about how I used to carry pills in my pocket when I was dealing with chronic migraine. And it wasn't all about that, but that was just a piece of the story. It was about how my husband and I would go on date nights, and we would go on a date night on Friday night, and then he would take me to the urgent care so that I could get a narcotic injection so that I could make it through the weekend, because I was dealing with such bad headaches. And in that story that I told, there was a detail of the blue pill in my pocket. And to this day, I have people that are like, I'll never forget your story with like the blue pill in your pocket. Like, people will tell me that now, and I haven't made that post in years. So those types of things are really what matter. But here's the framework for a really good, I'll call it a cross between the emotionally connecting jabs that don't necessarily have to translate to a sale, right? Just being you who you are, be you times 2. There's a cross that can happen between the jabs and the hook. Okay. And this is what it is. The framework is hook, story, offer. And what that means is the very first sentence of your post is going to be pulled apart from the rest of your post. So it's going to be one sentence, one line at the top that's going to grab attention. On Facebook in particular, that's where I build my business. On Facebook in particular, emojis are great, like firework emojis, something that can like grab attention with that text. You want that hook to be sort of like, almost like the punchline of your story, if that makes sense. But you want it to be the punchline where when someone reads it, the context doesn't make sense. They don't understand the context, so they have to keep reading. Does that make sense? So it could be something like, let me look really quick because I have one on my website. The one that I went with on my, I just typed the wrong thing. I set this up on my website too. This is, if you look at any marketing material for any company, brand, anybody, anything, top coaches, like what they're doing on social, this is the format they follow. So my hook on my website is, are you exercising and eating right and still not seeing results? Because I wanted to catch the attention of women who are doing all the things, but nothing's working, because I wanted to tell them that most likely their hormones are what's wrong. Okay. So that was the purpose of that hook, but it could be something about, it doesn't have to be something related to even health and fitness. It could be something else. You want to have an attention grabbing hook. You're going to skip a space, and then you're going to go into the context. What's the story behind that hook? Okay. So, and that story is where you're going to want to include the details that pull them in emotionally. So this is all connecting, because if we're pulling them in emotionally, then that means that they love us. If we pull them in emotionally, then we're building trust and they start to love us. And you start to hear things from people like, oh my gosh, like I felt like I was in that story, or, oh my gosh, I felt like you were talking to me, right? Or whatever. And then for your call to action post, you would end with an offer, right? So you would end with like, if you've ever felt like this, I'd love to have a conversation, because you don't have to feel like this anymore, right? So that is this, you'll start to see, if you follow coaches from this area, top coaches from in the network, you'll start to see that that tends to be like the wash, rinse, repeat type of social media post. Does that help? Because I think we can get kind of stuck with like, oh, I'm going to post about my Black Friday sale, or, oh, I'm going to post about this workout program or whatever. But really, like, pull out something from your life that you're okay with sharing, turn that into a story, grab some attention and pull people in.
Do you do you still recommend, I want to make sure I'm tracking with the percentages right, like how often do you make these types of posts? Is it like 1 in 5? Did you tell me that at one point?
No, yeah. It's so the way I would look at this, I mean, it's hard to say. I think that you want to have, call to action posts at least a couple times a week. So for me personally, I like to do, because I sit down to work on Tuesdays. So I'll usually do like a Tuesday invitation post daytime, because I'm working. And then usually Sunday nights, I'll do something like that. The rest of the week is just sprinkling my life, like my stories have my workouts, like they show that I'm proof the products work. Like it's my consistency is what I'm showing throughout the week. And then I'm putting in those hooks, usually at least twice a week. Now, I will say that everything comes down to your calendar. So if you're telling yourself, I want Success Club 5 by the middle of the month, you might have to do more invitations in the front half of your month. Does that make sense? So for me, like that's what, if you were to look at my social, you might even say like, Jenny, you haven't made an invitation for like 10 days. Well, I don't want to say that I hit my goal and stopped, but I hit my goal and focused on something else. So I hit my Success Club goal. And then I was like, okay, now I have to crush my Black Friday sale for my cookbook and my course and my email marketing. So my focus shifted. It was like, okay, this was what I wanted to do the first half. Does that make sense? So what I don't want you guys to do is get into such a, it's kind of like the tortoise and the hare, right? Like it is a long game, but if you're only doing like one invitation post a week, it's funny how fast 4 weeks flies by, right? Without like hitting the goal. So it might be that you have to do 2 to 3 invitations per week for the first couple of weeks of the month and really start to fill your pipeline and conversations so that you can hit that goal. Does that make sense? So I know for me, sometimes I'll get to like the 20th and I'm like, okay, I feel like I've really hit it hard. So I'm going to scale back a little bit. Like I'm going to breathe a little bit and not be so invitey at the moment. And then I kind of circle back into it.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. There's no really set rule as far as, yeah, who knows? But consistently putting invitations in your, you could do the polls pretty consistently in your stories. And
Okay.
with your little course you have, are you like, how are you getting people on your email list for that?
So I'm still sitting at, I have my initial, I don't know, call to, can I have your email campaign? It's still pinned at the top of my profile. So I have had a few trickle in. I've had some referrals, but it's still sitting around the 50s, 54, I think is my last count. So, it's not, I mean, and I had some interest with the course, but then, so I had 3 people reach out about it. And then like, I just felt like my timing was not the right timing. Like I didn't give it the good buildup that it probably needed to get even a beta group in. So I just like, they didn't confirm that they wanted to be in by the date we started. So I was like, okay, it's full. Like we're done. We're pulling the plug on this for right now. And then I'm just like, okay, I've got to figure this out. So,
okay. So one thing have you already created the course? Like, is it living somewhere or have you done any videos?
It's like, so what it is it's slides. I haven't done videos yet. It's slides and it's an outline. And then I have a subscription for Canva and I'm building resources in there.
Okay, perfect. That's what I was going to ask.
So just like freebies and like,
yep.
I still have a lot that I want to keep adding to it from what my goal was for the beta. But anyway, it's just, it feels really big. Like I'm so excited about it. And I know it's on the inside of me. It's just like executing. I get a little bit overwhelmed with all the rest of life that's happening. And so I'm just trying to figure out that balance with my other 2 jobs. So.
Absolutely. Well, and let me give you a really good piece of advice that somebody gave me and it was game changing. Lewis Howes once said, you should not design or build the content of your course until you've sold it. Because otherwise it's like, if you go through all this work of like creating something and then no one buys it, you're like out those hours that's you took, so, same thing for me with the hormone course. So I was like, does anybody have any interest in learning about hormone health? Like I had to like put it out there first, make sure that people were committed. And then I recorded everything for that course in 3 days. And it was because I'd sold it. You talk about motivation, you sell it, and then you're like, oh, now I got to do it. You know what I mean? It's just a different ballgame. So, but I want you to think about like, because I'm assuming based on what you just said, that you have an idea of what that course would look like ideally. So my question to you would be, what resource that you've had in your mind to create would be something unique, right? So what I don't mean is like my top tips for hydration, because people could Google that information, right? But like, what is something that's unique to like you? Like, what are your biohacks for sleep or whatever the case is? And then create just 1-page Canva, whatever that is, because I don't know, but let's just say it's, 10 ways to biohack your sleep or whatever, to get better sleep. Then that becomes something that you give away in exchange for someone's email. Okay. So now people will sign up for the email because they are getting something in return, and they'll give you the correct email because otherwise they won't get it. So does that make sense?
Oh, 100%.
So for you to be able to say like in your stories, like, hey, are you interested in my free downloadable resource about biohacking your sleep? If so, I'll drop it to you. Just send me your email, right? And then all you have to do is collect those emails, pop them into your email list. So that concept is called a freemium. And it's hugely valuable. And the cool thing is, Shalene teaches that you can create like those types of things don't take a lot of time. You could probably do something like that in Canva in an hour. So you could do that. And if it doesn't hit, nobody wants it, try something else, right? Like try a different downloadable. What you'll find is like, I know for me, I was blown away by the number of women. I was not expecting women to ask me so many questions about supplements. Like specifically like vitamins, multivitamins, estrogen dominance supplements, like different things that they were dealing with. I wasn't prepared for. I mean, I had suggestions, but that was not something that I was prepared for. So if you would have asked me before I created my course, my downloadable file would have been like questions for your doctor, proper testing, right? And those things are valuable and people do want to know that. But at the same time, like I now know that people actually want to know what supplements they should be trying or asking their doctor about. So my most popular free resource that I give away in exchange for an email is my top supplement guide. I would never have guessed that. Does that make sense? So I had to try different things to figure out what was going to work.
And that lives on your website, the free.
Yeah, it's specifically what they call a sales. So we have different sales funnels that are set up for that. If you don't want to, at this point, I don't know if you want to invest in like a software program for that. So you could do, what I would suggest doing would be like to even just do like a Google form to collect their email.
Okay.
And then just do like a weekly manual dump, into your email list or whatever.
I was just thinking too, it's so funny you talked about this because what I wrote down earlier was I could do a how to make social media healthy freemium. And then I was like, yeah, and then I could use my Instagram to post it and link it through Linktree in my Instagram bio. And because I'm always trying to figure out for myself, what do I know that can help people? And I was just like, man, I wish people knew about this. And then I was like, oh, maybe that's something I could do. But because I don't have like any fancy stuff set up yet, I Instagram posts with Linktree is free and I can use it and it's easy and then it can stay there forever or as long as I want it. So anyway, that gave me a cool idea tonight. So thank you, Jenny. Yeah,
I love that. Well, and one thing that Rory Vaden's been teaching in this brand builder stuff that I've been doing is he talks about how this is called a freemium, an opt-in, sometimes is what it's called, or in Amy Porterfield language, it's called a lead magnet. So either way, in marketing terms, it means this is something that I'm giving away in exchange for an email. One of the things, I lost my train of thought. It was something to do with what you just said, Katie. When it comes to these opt-ins, like I said, you're gonna have to try different things to see what sticks. But the cool thing about them is that you'll learn really fast. Like you're going to learn really fast, like what's sticking and what's not. Like if you start talking about that biohacking your sleep and your stories for a good 10 days and you're not getting any traction, like ditch it and do something else. But Rory teaches that the most popular lead magnets right now are actually, like, of course, downloadable files because they're simple, but the two most popular are webinars. This is something that I'm getting ready to dance with as much as I don't want to. In January is doing like a 1-hour webinar on women's hormone health. Because the cool thing about that webinar is I can have live people or it can be recorded and sent out through email for recording. So webinars or what they call a video series, which is like a 3-part video series or a 5-part video series. So that could be, Rachel, something as simple as, if you're interested in my 3-part video series on nailing the basics of starting your fitness journey, right? And maybe you have a video on hydration, maybe you have a video on movement, maybe you have a video on nutrition. Like maybe it's really, really simple. Maybe the videos are just in your car, they're 3 minutes long, but people sign up, they give you their email, and then they get these 3 emails from you with these videos. Those 2 things, according to him, are the most popular thing right now, is to do video or webinar.
Well, that's outside of my comfort zone, but it's a good thing.
There you go.
To keep stretching and growing.
That's right. And the downloadable file thing, it works for me. So, I mean, it can work too. I just think it's with the downloadable file, it might be more of a trial and error thing to see what's going to stick.
I like it. And I already have a meal planning template that that works really well for me too. That might.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah.
So many different I know that there's so many meal planning templates out there, but it's kind of like finding what works really well with your brain.
Yes.
So maybe that
Templates
could
are
be good.
huge. People pay money for templates. Yeah. That's good.
Okay.
I
And
like
then Katie, I just had a thought too, when you were talking earlier, and it just really, you can like take this and go, well, no, thank you. But I just feel like we're onto something really big with that whole piece of connection and
Yeah.
loneliness that people have. And that might even be an opt-in thing, like top 10 ways to feel more connected with people that they don't even realize that they weren't giving a try. I've talked with Jenny about this, like the whole narrative that we tell ourselves that creates our reality is so huge, and just helping people see, like, if they're feeling lonely and they're telling themselves they're lonely, then they continue to withdraw. So anyway, those are just some.
Oh, that's
thoughts.
really good. That's really good. Yeah, I'm gonna ponder on.
You know what phrase came up for me, Katie, when you were talking, and I wrote it down and I forgot to say it, is you've heard the phrase, you can sit with me, or you can sit with us. Have you heard this phrase? Right. So
Like from Mean Girls.
is that where it's from? I don't know. I've never seen Mean Girls. Should I admit that?
I don't know, but I just listened to the Mean Girls musical made for Broadway on my way to my parents. So anywho, I don't know. I feel like it's from Mean Girls, but maybe it's something else.
Maybe it is. I don't know.
Anywho.
But I've been seeing it used in a lot of different ways recently. So, but it's just, I love that concept of, you are an includer. Like you're somebody who I've heard this said before, maybe Amy, when she talks to us about personality types, maybe it'll be more evident, but I've heard people talk about people who are uniquely gifted in widening the circle. Like when someone walks up, they are instantly the person who steps back to let the person in. And when you said that out loud, I literally was like nodding my head, like, yeah, that is Katie. Like that totally is. Like you are the one that's like, when we've had live events, like when you're there, it's just a totally different energy. Like everybody is so much more connected. You can tell the shy people are included. Like it's just totally different. So it is totally your skill set. So yeah, coming up with something in that regard would be super.
Wow.
Okay. So did you guys watch the National Wake Up Call today with JJ is what they're calling her, Jennifer Jacobs?
Not yet.
Yeah, I watched it. I wanted to be like, oh, come on, like stop with the scripted answers, like give us the answers. Have you guys tried the sample workout for job one? Yeah. Yeah. So anyway,
I loved it.
Yeah, I think it'll be good. I'm excited for the cycling option and stuff too. So she has a definite, like, I'm impressed with like the number of people that have tried the sample workout that I sent. I think the 20 minutes is a huge deal for a lot of people. So I just wanted to mention to you guys, like when you are talking in your stories or whatever about job one, really emphasize the 20 minutes. I had just like, it dawned on me because I heard her say that today about 20, 640, she said, and I quote, 645 is a great program, but not everybody can commit to that because it's 45 minutes a day, 6 days a week. And just yesterday, I had a girl who's kind of been on and off the fence. Like she's in and out of Shakeology, in and out of BOD, like longtime customer. She reached out to me yesterday and was like, hey, what program is this? She saw my stories. And I said, oh, it's 645. And she said, oh, is it on BOD yet? And so we had that whole conversation. And then she's like, actually, I don't know if I should commit. I don't know if I can commit to that because I don't know if I can do 45 minutes, 6 days a week. And so it's like hearing her say that, and then hearing Jennifer Jacobs today on the wake up call say, 20 minutes is doable, especially heading into the new year when people are like getting back on the bus. I think that the 20 minutes is something we should initiate. We should really encourage. So when you're talking about job one, I would talk about that. We can certainly run a job one group. My preference would be originally I was thinking, it releases to customers on the 16th. My personal feeling is that getting people on board within that 1 week window before Christmas and starting a group is really crowded. So my thought was we could run a job one specific challenge group. We can discuss whether it's going to be VOD groups or Facebook or whatever. We could do that, but my preference would be to do it in January, to be spending December inviting people to the job one group so that we could have that group in January. Does that make sense? Versus having it start on the day that it launches and hoping that people purchase. So, yeah. And then this week, the preview group for the body day pass. My thought was if we as a mentorship clan wanted to commit to doing a body live workout, whether it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday of this weekend, posting a little clip of our video or of our workout, like maybe 10, 15 seconds of something we were doing, with body, posting it in that group saying, oh my gosh, I just worked out with Joel, his body burn is amazing. I can't believe I'm dripping sweat, whatever, like really encouraging the energy in there. Of course, if you're ever consuming like Fixate or mindset menu recipes, like take a picture, snap a picture, put it in there in the group too. So my thought was it's really just going to be a place where we can tell people, these are the workouts we've tried. These are the ones you can try with your day pass. You guys are handling the conversations before they obviously enter that group. So the purpose of the group is not to sell them on the day pass, if that makes sense. Like the flash sale, the purpose of the group is to be like, okay, you've bought your day pass. Here are some workouts that we recommend. We want to hear what you guys think. Does that make sense? Have you guys, so my personal favorites are the Joel, I think it's called Body Burn, like the short ones. Have you guys tried those yet? Whew. Okay, so he has a few that are like 23, 24 minutes. I think they're called Body Burn. They are brutally awesome. Like they're so short, but so good. Like really, I haven't had a bad workout on there yet, but those are good. So.
I love the body camps or body camps. They're just like, I know they're the same format after I tried like 3 or 4. I'm like, oh, there's like a pattern here, but I love it because it's so fast. Just the progression.
I think all the body workouts are so fast. It feels like they go so fast.
Yeah.
I will say that if your prospect could do a live class, like if a live time worked out for them, the music will be better. I don't know if you guys have experienced this or not. I know it's been a constant theme in the roundtable. When you do a body live class, it's different music than you get if you do it recorded. So once it goes to recorded version, they have to go with like a certain list of music. So it's no longer the trainer's music that they picked. It's whatever was within license to use, if that makes sense. So sometimes if somebody's going to invest in that day pass, like if they can make a lifetime work, they could potentially be on the podcast. They're going to get the better music, if not, fine. They can definitely do the recorded option, but I would maybe suggest that though first.
This is a random question with body, but I've noticed lately, like at the beginning, it was tracking my workouts. So like it would let me log my body workouts, but I've not been getting that option and I've made sure that my app is up to date. So I was just curious if anyone else is experiencing that. It could be my phone.
I don't know. I don't know. I just finished 6:45. So I've been doing that for the last few weeks. So I haven't done a body live class for a few weeks. So I don't know. I don't know if it's changed. Anybody else? No.
It's still letting me log anything I do on demand, it logs, but I've just,
when
I do any body class, whether it's recorded or live, it's not even like prompting me to log it.
Right.
So anyway, I was just curious.
Yeah. That's interesting. I don't know. I'll have to look. I'm going to do one tomorrow. So I'll let you know. Bye, Ashley. Does anybody have any other questions or things you guys want to talk about tonight?
No, I think this is really helpful for me as far as like kind of coming up with some small actionable things.
Yeah.
That I was remembering flashback to being a brand new coach, and every single day you'd be like, get a planner. And being overwhelmed is always my biggest problem. And I'm like, man, I really need to get a friggin' planner or calendar out and just put in, like, I was thinking too, Rachel, when you were talking, like, okay, I need to write, like, okay, this day I will do this type of thing, and like have it like listed out in front of me so I can just get up in the morning and check things off and whatever, instead of it. Like lately, my biggest issue has been like, what do I prioritize? Because I have so many different moving parts in my life right now. I just freeze and do nothing because I don't even know what direction to walk in. And I'm like, I just need to take all of this stuff and actually just ordered I have now, it arrived, a push journal. I haven't opened the package because I'm like, I don't know. I'm like afraid to release it or something. I'm not sure. I'm afraid of what's in that thing. But I think just kind of going back to those basics of like getting out a calendar again and just trying to put in like, what is something small I can do for Beachbody each day, or today, so just to kind of like get some baby steps and stuff. And then my update thing was, my word of the year, to copy Jenny, but no, a word did come to me actually for the first time ever. And the word is deeper. And I have some people at work I've been talking to about Beachbody. My one coworker, Mary, was in the flash sale group, and then I never followed up with her or whatever, but we talk at work, so like between things at work, like we get little moments of being able to talk and connect into like, and the body shop guy was talking to me about losing weight. And so there's like, I was like, yeah, I'm going to bring you some stuff about, about figuring out your nutrition. He's like, I would like help on that, so it's like just trying to connect with some people that are in my in-person life as I can too, but getting a little bit more of a strategy is helpful for me. So not just strategy, nitty gritty daily to-do lists, like written out so that I'm not just living in someday land,
Same, girl. I'm with you.
I love that. Yeah. Last week I almost strangled my 5-year-old because I have this little dinky whiteboard. I know you're going to laugh because I have tons of whiteboards, but my mom got it for me at a craft fair. So it has these lovely lilacs on it or whatever. It was just a little tiny whiteboard that stands up in a stander. And it's like, I literally live or die by this thing. Like, and so what I do is I write down usually the night before what I need to do tomorrow. And I used to be really bad about like, I would list everything. Like I would list like 3 newsletters, record this. Like I would put like all these million things that were all big frogs. And then I would sit down to do them and like freak out and do nothing except a Facebook post. And so now I've figured out like, okay, well, actually what I need to do is I have a brain dump list. So my brain dump list is separate. Hopefully this is valuable. Because if you brain dump for tomorrow, you're never going to get it all done. And then you're going to get discouraged and then you're going to throw the planner out and it's going to all be over. So you need a brain dump list. And then you need to take that brain dump list and look at it and do maybe the push journal will be great for you, Katie, because Shalene really teaches, look at your brain dump and then say which of these items is the one thing that I need to focus on. Right. And so then tomorrow becomes, okay, tomorrow I'm focusing on creating that downloadable guide. And maybe it's even a smaller step than that. Like that's what I've been doing recently is like, sometimes I'll say to myself, like I literally wrote last week, I wanted to record 2 ads for my podcast. And so I wrote down on my to-do list, record 2 ads for the podcast. And then I sat down to work and I was like, oh, like, what are my ads going to be about? Like, what product am I going to do? Like, I hadn't thought through any of that stuff yet. So then I had to backtrack and be like, okay, no, today I'm going to just write out a script for the ad, like what I'm going to say. Right. And then tomorrow, the next day, I'm going to record the ad. So sometimes you have to really think in terms of like baby steps. So instead of creating that full freemium in Canva, maybe Rachel's goal is I'm just going to create a Word doc with all the stuff that would be in my biohacking for sleep guide, so that Thursday I can create it in Canva. Does that make sense? Like, give yourself the baby step.
Yeah, this reminds me of the book, Tiny Habits.
Yeah.
Have you read that one?
A long time ago. Yes.
But it's about the tiny change that you could make. And like this one lady, I guess her husband had died, and she needed to like take over the business, and she was so overwhelmed she couldn't move. And so she finally decided her tiny habit was each morning she would write on a Post-it note, or I think she would just like take a Post-it note and put it on the table, like basically like taking your whiteboard and just getting it out.
Yep.
And that was her first step. And then eventually she like had enough to be able to then write something on that Post-it note of like something that she needed to do for the business, and then it was just like, then it slowly started to build. So because I think it's like, we just think about the thing we want to accomplish, not necessarily the small things that lead up to that accomplishment that are achievable.
Right. Yes, yes, and yes. So I almost strangled Ellery last week because I came in here on my very last day before Thanksgiving break to work. It was like my big day. I was going to do all these things and wrap up all these loose ends. And I sat down and she had erased my entire list, like entire thing. So I have my whiteboard behind me, has a big brain dump, and then my little whiteboard has my to-do list, and she had decided to erase both. So I literally felt like I was sitting down with like a blank brain. Like I was like, I don't remember what I have to do. Like I was so lost. And then I had to really like dial it in and be like, okay, like what was it I needed to do? So, but yeah, I agree that it's hugely helpful to know and just to give yourself those baby steps. You follow Shalene on Instagram, Katie?
I follow her in every way.
Yeah. So I know that she talks specifically.
She's been someone that I've connected with so much, which is crazy because she's all like glamorous and high heels and whatever. But because of her stuff around ADHD, it's been so like, I've sobbed listening to her podcast and stuff, being like, oh my God, my whole life I've had this and I didn't know. And then to see her be a success with it, and then to figure out how to help other people with that kind of scatterbrain, like, she's been so encouraging. And I mean, even just from Beachbody stuff, like a long time ago, she's always had the best tips on how to market yourself. And she's super cool. I don't know if I follow her on Instagram specifically, but I listen to the Shalene show, and I find her in other places.
Her Instagram recently, the reason I ask is because in the last couple weeks, she's really been talking every single day. She posts in her Instagram stories, her push journal, like she writes in her push journal and then shares that to her social. So you can kind of see how she thinks through it.
Well,
so that
cool.
it could be helpful.
Follow her now.
Since you guys have the same like thought patterns and stuff, it might be helpful. The one thing that I'll say is, when I sit down every day, I have certain things that are on my to-do list that are always the same every day. So those things are always going to be right. Like usually the vital behaviors, I'm going to drink my shake, press play on my workout. I'm going to share those things to my social. On my to-do list, it says social. And for me, that just means making a Facebook post, putting things in my stories, etc. And then one thing that I like, one frog that I want to bite tomorrow. So for me tomorrow, it's my newsletter. Like my December newsletter is going out and I have to get it done. So I will consider tomorrow a success if I've posted on my social and I've done that email newsletter. If I do more if I look at my brain dump list at the end of the day and I'm like, oh, I have an extra hour and I pick something else off that brain dump list to do, perfect. But I did the one thing that was the most important thing for tomorrow. I hope it's helpful for you, Katie. I hope the push journal is, I've considered ordering it. I ended up going with it's called the Rise Up journal. It's Moira. I never can say Moira Kusama, whatever Myra Kusaba's.
Oh, Moira.
Moira or Myra, I don't know. It's hers. So I thought I saw like a glimpse of it on her stories and I thought that looked like more my style. So I ordered it, but we'll see.
Love it all.
Yeah, everything in the business is so intentional. And I think it's so easy with a business that can easily be just a hobby or, you know, like a wave that you catch, you know, like it's so easy to not prioritize it just because you're like, well, I've got my kids and my job and everything else. And so I think incorporating it into a planner is really like what it takes to say, no, I'm going to take this seriously. Like I'm going to actually commit to this and be consistent. So I love that. Okay, you guys, it's 10 o'clock. I so value that you've been on here this long with me. We've got the recorded version. I'll upload it tomorrow and send it to everybody in the group. I will talk with Amy to see what week she wants to hop on here and give us a little personality plus assessment. So otherwise we'll just talk in the thread. That sound good?
Sounds good. Thank
Right.
you.
Have a great night,
Thank you
you guys.
so much.
Mwah.
You all
Talk to you
have a
next
good
week.
one.
Hey, Rachel,
Bye.
if you make your thing, will you share it and show us what you come up with?
For my freemium?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah,
Sweet.
I might just like fancy up my meal tiplet, but I'm gonna keep working on some other ones too. So
Cool.
I love that. And Katie, you too. I want to hear what you come up with
Yeah.
for connecting.
We'll see.
yeah. Thank you all.
All right, you guys, good
Thank
night.
you.